Welcome to What If News. Thank you so much for being here. If you are not aware, over the night, U.S. forces went and got Maduro and his wife under a sealed indictment from 2020. Let's take a peek here at the Twitter, the X fear, whatever you want to call it. Let's take a look at X and see what all the people are saying, because it's interesting to me how many people on the left are up in arms over this. And the reason that I find it very, very odd and awkward is the fact that maybe another money source has now been cut off. So from the new mayor of New York, I was briefed this morning on the U.S. military capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and his wife, as well as their planned imprisonment in federal custody here in New York City. Unilaterally attacking a sovereign nation is an act of war and a violation of federal and international law. This blatant pursuit of regime change doesn't affect those abroad. It directly impacts New Yorkers, including tens of thousands of Venezuelans who call this city home. My focus is their safety and the safety of every New Yorker, and my administration will continue to monitor the situation and issue relevant guidance. Okay, says the communist mayor of New York. Wow. We didn't start a war at all. We went and got a person that is the head of a narco state. I don't understand why that's such a problem for people on the left. When you have people that are shipping drugs into our country, whether it's by land, air, sea, whatever, into our country, you guys should really be happy that something like this happened, because imagine all the United States citizens that hopefully this saves their life. I mean, you have there in Venezuela, you had Iran, Hezbollah, China, Russia, all of them with inside Venezuela. The Venezuelan people are extremely grateful for what happened. And the people that are not happy about what happened are people like the new New York mayor, people on the left in Congress. Tim Burchett, he's great. You know, I don't write many letters, and I know at Real Donald Trump is very busy today. So here's my open letter to our president.
After I guess Chavez took over, but he was telling me that their flag now is 8 stars. It was originally 7 stars. Chavez did it, claimed it was some tribute to Simon Bolivar or something. I don't know, but it's really just a sign of his communist leanings and taking over. And the people down there hate it. It'd be really cool if, when order is restored, if the people in charge would have the freedom to change that back to a 7-star flag. I think that would send a real symbol to the people, freedom-loving people like we are. And I apologize for putting this video out to you, but sometimes I know you're busy, and I am the 435th most powerful member of Congress. So that comes with the responsibility of knowing that you might not.
Which means Tim Burchett
anyway,
isn't on the tape.
It'd be pretty cool to send that message out to those folks.
So, Elizabeth Warren, President Trump, unilaterally military action to attack another country and seize Maduro, no matter how terrible a dictator is. Oh, so she's admitting that he's a dictator. Is unconstitutional and threatens to drag U.S. into further conflict. In my eyes, the only countries that it could possibly drag us into conflict with would be Iran, China, Hezbollah, which is, funded by Iran, Russia, which, we'll see how that works out. Um, when it comes down to who's going to be in charge of Venezuela, I mean, ultimately the Venezuelan people, but I mean, obviously, when you go and you remove a said dictator, what are we supposed to do? Just pack up and leave right away? That's not going to work. Then the people that were next in line for power, such as anybody that was part of Maduro's regime, would then try to seize that power. So, I mean, you can't necessarily retreat. You got to, build the infrastructure. I mean, there's no doubt about that. Apparently, these are pictures of, when when the situation was happening, unfolding. Venezuela quickly explained, I spent 5 years following caravans of illegal aliens all over South America. Here's why President Trump's military action is so important for our security. I just don't understand why people think that. Here's Venezuela, people happy as can be that this, regime was taken down. Senator Marco Rubio.
We called members of Congress immediately after. This was not the kind of mission that you can do congressional notification on. It was a trigger-based mission in which conditions had to be met night after night. We watched and monitored that for a number of days. So it's just simply not the kind of mission you can call people and say, hey, we may do this at some point in the next 15 days. But it's largely a law enforcement function. Remember, at the end of the day, at its core, this was an arrest of 2 indicted fugitives of American justice. And the Department of War supported the Department of Justice in that job. Now, there are broader policy implications here. But it's just not the kind of mission that you can pre-notify because it endangers the mission.
Pre-notified meaning you can't go and tell Congress because Congress leaks more than a bucket with holes in it that's holding water. I mean, anybody that pays attention to that sort of situation knows that Congress literally leaks all the time. From John Solomon, 2 hours ago, leaders of Colombia, Mexico, and Brazil opposed U.S. strikes that led to capture of Maduro. Well, I don't really think that we care because of the simple fact that Colombia and cocaine. Mexico, cocaine. Cuba, apparently Cuba literally went into Venezuela and started occupying their actual country. So Iran and Brazil opposed U.S. strikes that led to what happened? Of course, dictators are going to, oppose it, even though some of them are, legitimately elected president or whatever their terminology is for their head person. People should be happy about this because of the simple fact that, the drug flow has decreased significantly in the last 2 months. But hey, maybe people that are making money off of the influx of drugs into our country, maybe their hand is part of, in the cookie jar. But, when Obama killed American citizens, Congress didn't say anything. Don't know what I'm talking about? Look it up. Laura Loomer, I don't know what about Trump, just makes me feel so pumped up to be an American. Venezuelan statue getting pulled down. Remember when they were pulling our statues down? But for a completely different reason. CNN senior military advisor James Stavridis, whatever, on Trump's administration, privately, Iran, Russia, and China will be impressed with the military capabilities here. I would argue none of these three militaries could have executed the operation. Yeah. It's pretty funny because I've just recently seen on Facebook where apparently Venezuela had Chinese radar that apparently had no idea, didn't pick up anything flying in the air, whether it was low flight, whatever. But, apparently Chinese military radar doesn't work very well. So that's interesting. Here's a Venezuelan man. This is important.
America. Okay, as a Venezuelan American, I got some shit to say. My family, my parents, my sister, my extended family, all lost everything. Their work, their savings, their investments, gone. Wiped out by a narco dictatorship that has held Venezuela in a death grip for over 25 years. And what happened to my family has happened to millions, and yes, millions. The Venezuelan exodus is the second largest displacement crisis on earth after Syria. This is not just a tragedy. It is one of the great humanitarian disasters of our time. But the suffering doesn't end there. This regime has jailed hundreds of political prisoners. Thousands have been murdered simply for speaking out. More than a third of the population has fled. 1/3. Not for better opportunities or for the American dream, but to survive, to live, because staying often means death. And while the world may see Venezuela as a collapsed state, what it is in reality is an occupied one. Our territory, our natural resources, and our institutions have been overrun by hostile foreign powers. Iranian militias, Chinese corporations, Russian intelligence, all exploiting our country with impunity. Venezuela is no longer just a local crisis. It is now a geopolitical threat that endangers the entire Western Hemisphere. It has become a launchpad for an authoritarian expansion in the Americas. And in the midst of all of this, one woman has dared to lead the charge for freedom. Maria Corina Machado. In 2024, against every odd, she led a peaceful democratic uprising that won the election. Her team smuggled physical voting receipts out of the country, hard proof of victory that the regime tried to bury. Her courage has lit a fire in the hearts of millions of Venezuelans desperate to believe that change is still possible. But now some have questioned her decision to dedicate her Nobel Prize to Donald Trump. Okay, I get that. But here's the truth. It was a brilliant strategic move in the global chessboard of politics. Maria Corina is no fool. She knows exactly the kind of man Trump is. She knows how much he campaigned for it, loudly and relentlessly, to win that very same prize. She knows how symbolic and personal that recognition is to him. And precisely because of that, she understood that this gesture might be the thing that keeps his attention focused on Venezuela at a time when U.S. presence and pressure in the Caribbean is rising. She didn't dedicate that award to flatter him. She did it to protect and preserve the one kind of power that could help shift the course of history. Because for her, this isn't about pride. It's not about optics. It's about freedom. And let's be very clear. Maria Corina is not asking for the U.S. to invade Venezuela. She's not campaigning for war. Venezuela is already invaded. It is held hostage by a narco state, overrun by foreign agents and enemies of democracy, Russians, Iranians, Chinese. all operating freely, weaponizing our land and resources to expand their influence across Latin America. What Maria Corina is calling for, what millions of Venezuelans are praying for, is the support of the only military on earth capable of countering that threat and helping to free our people. This is not imperialism. This is liberation. She's not playing partisan games. She's playing for Venezuela's life. Because this isn't theoretical. This isn't academic. This is life or death. So yes, it is time to honor her bravery, but more importantly, it is time for the world, especially the free world, to recognize what's at stake. The fight for Venezuela is a fight for freedom, for democracy, and for the stability of an entire continent. If we truly care about liberty, human dignity, and peace in the Americas, then Venezuela's fight must matter to all of us. Que viva Venezuela, que viva María Corina Machado.
That's from somebody that would know. I mean, that's what our country stands for. Freedom, liberty, justice, the rights of humans, the rights of patrons. So why are so many people on the left up in roar about this situation of what happened overnight? Like I said, maybe their hand is in the cookie jar. Anything's possible.